confusion that has surrounded human life since the beginning of time. Pain is a solid ground from which the roots of change grow when comfort fades and the promises of tranquility wither. It is like an invisible hand that shakes the inner throne of the soul, urging individuals to reconsider their actions, choices, and selves. Nothing changes people like pain. With these words, Sigmund Freud opens a window into a world where human experience intertwines with the deep layers of the psyche. Disappointments and hopes merge with the existential confusion that has surrounded human life since the beginning of time. Pain is a solid ground from which the roots of change grow when comfort fades and the promises of tranquility wither. It is like an invisible hand that shakes the inner throne of the soul, urging individuals to reconsider their actions, choices, and selves. Reading this statement reminds us that Freud, who revolutionized psychology through his analysis of the unconscious and dreams, did not say this lightly. He had already explored the most sensitive and complex areas of human nature, as if declaring that darkness, when it intensifies in the depths of the self, becomes the birthplace of a new and extraordinary light. A unique equation appears in human psychology. As a person plunges into suffering, they discover hidden weaknesses within themselves and reach for possibilities they would never have imagined without the sting of sorrow. Take Friedrich Nietzsche, for example. He spent his last years in isolation and illness, yet from this pain, he forged his philosophy of the will to power and the exaltation of the creative self. Despite misfortune and hardship, he believed that pain was an essential fire that refines the human being, much like how metals are forged in scorching furnaces to gain strength and resilience. In his book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche reshaped his vision of the Übermensch, not merely as a superhuman being, but as one reborn from the ashes of suffering, reconstructed with the scars of struggle and the nails of solitude. This historical perspective repeats itself in the cycles of civilization. Historian Will Durant, in The Story of Civilization, illustrates how societies have risen from the flames of war and famine, forcing humanity to restructure its values and behaviors. Plato experienced this firsthand when his teacher Socrates was executed in a trial that caused great pain to his school of thought, which sought wisdom and moral integrity. Without the agony of losing his revered teacher, Plato might never have been inspired to establish his academy and write the Republic, aiming to build a philosophical foundation where future generations could distinguish truth from illusion. Freud's book, The Interpretation of Dreams, opens yet another dimension for understanding pain. Dreams, born from the darkness of the unconscious, often feed on repressed suffering and deprivation. They act as a channel through which the hidden self communicates using symbols. Without the pain that disrupts the surface calm of the psyche, the waves of desires and fears would remain dormant, preventing the true treasures of the self from emerging. Pain across time resembles a grinding stone that crushes the seeds of transformation. These seeds may remain buried for long periods, but inevitably, under the right conditions, they sprout despite storms. In a profound moment where existential sorrow intersects with a new idea, a deep shift in human thought and emotions occurs. Albert Camus captured this in the myth of Sisyphus, portraying the tragedy of endlessly rolling a boulder up a hill, only for it to fall back again. Yet within this eternal struggle, he depicted the moment when humans rebel against their fate and find meaning in the absurd. From this void, hope is born, just as flowers bloom from the ashes. Arthur Schopenhauer, on the other hand, saw life as synonymous with suffering. According to him, Existence is driven by a blind will that constantly regenerates itself. While his philosophy is deeply pessimistic, it also suggests that self-awareness in moments of pain can radically alter our perception of the world. Pain, in this sense, becomes a pathway for discovering the limits of the self and a fuel for ethical and intellectual movement. The history of humanity is a manuscript written in tears of suffering and the sweat of struggle. Many of the greatest literary and philosophical works have been rooted in this deep anguish. Take Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, which have been passed down through generations as timeless narratives of war, loss, and human resilience. These epic tales highlight the harshness of fate and its unpredictability, but also celebrate the human ability to endure hardship and return with a renewed sense of purpose. French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre sharpened his existentialist ideas during the horrors of World War II. In Being and Nothingness, he argued that humans are thrown into a harsh world without guidance, but they are ultimately responsible for shaping their destinies through absolute freedom. This freedom intensifies in direct proportion to suffering, making pain the most brutal teacher, one that strips away illusions and reveals the raw truth. Buddhism also offers insights into the nature of suffering, emphasizing that pain stems from desire and attachment. According to Buddha, overcoming suffering is possible by following a path of moderation that curbs excessive longing. Here, pain serves as a mirror, reflecting the deeper truths of the self and the nature of existence. From a religious perspective, history is filled with accounts of prophets, saints, and scholars who attained spiritual enlightenment, relentless searches for truth. Their hardships refined their spirits and deepened their wisdom, reinforcing the idea that pain forces us to confront our inner selves and discard superficial distractions. The past offers countless lessons on how suffering reshapes individuals and societies. The Black Death in medieval Europe, for instance, devastated populations and forced people to reevaluate their understanding of science and faith. This existential crisis ultimately paved the way for the Renaissance, a cultural and intellectual explosion that redefined art, philosophy, and governance. The horrors of war in the 20th century prompted nations to create international organizations aimed at preventing conflict and promoting cooperation. Although these efforts have not eliminated war, they reflect humanity's persistent struggle to extract meaning from suffering and forge new paths toward peace. Pain is not an absolute void. Rather, it is a crucible that melts away illusions and reshapes our understanding of ourselves and the world. It resembles the wheel of fortune, lifting individuals to great heights before plunging them into deep despair. Yet from those depths, new insights emerge, shaping character and philosophy. Thus, when we first step into life, we are carried on the gentle wings of youthful dreams. But when we taste the bitterness of failure, we detach from childhood illusions and learn the true cost of growth, dignity, and wisdom. Some may ask, are we glorifying suffering? Not at all. We are simply acknowledging its inevitable role in human transformation. Pain is like a lightning bolt that cuts through the darkness of an obscure night, momentarily revealing the road ahead before fading away. That fleeting glimpse remains etched in memory, guiding us whenever we stumble. Many of history's greatest minds have endured profound suffering, but their pain became a source of inspiration. Beethoven, for instance, lost his hearing, an unimaginable tragedy for a musician. Yet he composed some of the most extraordinary symphonies, drawing music from the depths of silence. His Ninth Symphony, created in total deafness, stands as a tribute to human resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. Ultimately, pain carves holes in the soul, filling us with fear, defiance, curiosity, and a desire to understand ourselves. It breaks down preconceived notions and, at times, liberates us in a moment of rare enlightenment. If pain is inevitable, then perhaps our true task is not to escape it, but to transform it into a force for growth and wisdom.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.